Welcome to Motivational Mondays. This is Fed Ray Zach, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And one of the pitfalls of motivation is that it's not sustained. Now, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the first two astronauts who actually landed on the moon, have what to teach us about that. But before we start, make sure to like, subscribe, and do share, especially if you find value in this presentation. I want to say thank you for all those that shared and supported the channel. Just want to take that time out to do that. All right, so I always say you need one of three things. You need something to do, something meaningful to do, okay, whatever that is, okay? You need to find in your core values, in your core attributes, something meaningful to do in life, someone to do it for, okay, someone to give, someone to do this particular thing that you're doing for, and something to look forward to, okay? That makes a meaningful recipe. That's three ingredients that are very meaningful life, right? Something meaningful to do, someone meaningful to give to, and something meaningful to do. Now, at a certain point, okay, if we go back to 1969, I think it was, when Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, the first astronauts in space, who landed on the moon. I believe it's Neil Armstrong that said the famous line of one small step for man, one large step for mankind, right? I don't know if I'm saying it exactly verbatim, but it's something like that. And it was huge. It was, think about it. It's the Cold War. It's Russians versus Americans. Who could get to space first? Americans get to the moon first. It was meaningful. It was very, very meaningful. What happened the day after? Well, they both regressed into very deep depression. They both regressed into not really being part of the element. They became spokespersons for NASA. They became these celebrities, and both of them actually shined away from that spotlight because that wasn't their nature. That wasn't their spot. They were scientists. They were fighter pilots. They weren't rock stars. They weren't people that wanted to get and be in the limelight. And they had a very difficult time after that. Now, they did have a goal of reaching the moon, and once they got it, okay, it kind of was like, okay, now what? Now what do we do? What's the point? Was it really as great as we thought it was? Yeah, it was great. It was in the moment. It left. Now what do we do? They had to recreate their lives in order to sustain those three ingredients of something meaningful to do, something meaningful to give to, and the last one of something meaningful to look forward to. They had hit all those elements, but now they had to recreate themselves and find that ingredient for some of the other things that they did. And they did. They became other things in their lives, and they came out of their depression. But what's the point here? Motivation is not about getting something. It's not about having a fancy car or getting to have a private jet. All fun stuff. Don't get me wrong. And in the moment, they're really, really fun. And then it passes. The new car that you got, the fancy car that you got, okay, it kind of wanes off. And so what do? We find another meaningful thing, and another meaningful thing, and another meaningful thing. It's kind of an addiction. If, however, you look at motivation as the process, as what you're doing is your goal, and that's meaningful in of itself, that is sustainable, that your essence, your being, your attributes, your values, your core self will really resonate with it and can sustain it despite hitting those goals and feeling successful because of those goals. But the real goal is to be in that moment and doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, it could be anything. It could be trading. It could be making dentures for people. Whatever it is that you feel will make you feel sustainable or make you feel meaningful, that this particular thing that you're doing is meaningful, it's then sustainable. It's not the getting of the car. Those are the perks. Those are the things that come afterwards. That's like the icing on the cake. But it's the process, and that's the success. People feel successful when they're progressing further ahead, not when they're particularly hitting a certain goal. The goal is it's the outcome. And sometimes when we attribute the motivation to the goal, once we hit the goal, we regress into this tremendous depression, and we don't seek other things in life. So my word to you, whether you're in sales, whether you're in finance, whether you're in trading, whatever it is that you do, if you process and focus on the motivation on what you're doing to do the best that you can and recreate yourself in that moment and recreate things in that moment that makes them somewhat of a variety, because after a while things get kind of boring. How many times could you look at the same chart every single day. But if I mix certain elements to it, then it becomes variety, it becomes different, and it becomes more exciting. And to stay in that excited mode is where we come up with the best products of ourselves. And that's my message to you this Motivational Mondays. We'll see you here next week.